and welcome back. Sorry about that, I played the wrong video. You saw a bit of gameplay of Eon of Ruin with some weird commentary that I don't really appreciate. Sorry about that. That was autoplay at its best. I meant to play the Outriders trailer while I was away. Hey Wolf Soul, welcome. Good to see you. Outriders, where are you at? Okay, so Outriders. Something different. Outriders is not a pixelated game. It is not. Oh god, I'm venturing onto thin ice. It's not a loot shooter. It's a PvE, as in single player, and co-op shooter RPG. But it's not a looter shooter, but it's an RPG with loot. Is your internet back or do you still have to wait, Wolfsoul? You've been offline for ages. 2 months is a long time. It's good to see you though. Later. Just watch.
Today, we shall see victory! A great new altered fights at our side!
Squeenix!
I feel a storm cloud coming down today.
The anomaly should have killed us. But instead, it left us something more. Altered and Outrider. Only we can lead them to a future.
Go!
Whatever we were before, we're something new now. We were given a second life. We can't waste it.
So that is the very, very silly release trailer. It's gonna come out of development into full release in February next year. I'm really looking forward to it, not because of this silly trailer. And I think it's very annoying to watch trailers and always get the three most positive journalist reviews printed fat on screen while you're really trying to watch either gameplay or a cool cinematic. Is really annoying. It's like somebody farted, yeah, it's awesome, it's the best game of the year, it's the 150th best game of the year, because I can read and my memory goes back longer than 10 seconds because I'm not a chicken. Maybe it's gonna stop at some point. I'm not sure. It's just I find it super annoying. It's like IGN said this is the best game. Don't miss this one. You will be surprised what the next game will do. It's just annoying. It shouldn't be in the trailer. It should be somewhere else on the homepage where they say, "Yeah, see who praises us already." That's where it could be. Outriders. Outriders is non-service, non-PvP, single player or co-op RPG stuff. So it's very similar to Godfall. I'm not sure if Godfall has co-op. Let's look at it from a single player perspective, right? I'm going to show you another video. The Technomancer is a playable character class, and we'll see more gameplay now.
Peggy 18.
Yes. In my defense, I didn't pick the person who reads this. She's got a very distinct accent. I don't really like her voice, but that's just me. So I'll leave the commentary on. It's, as you can see, it's put into different chapters where you can click on specific things to know what's going to happen. It's a showcase, right? They're showcasing, they are revealing a playable class in Outriders. Yeah, Postal 4, no regrets. We're going to look at that later. You still have about a week left currently using the phone. Ah, okay. Oh yeah, please don't use up all the data on me watching trailers with you. But it's so nice that you pop in also. I hope it's all going to go well with the internet. Technomancer. Also a game.
Greetings, Outriders. Welcome back to our Spotlight series, where we deep dive on an individual aspect of the game. Today, we scope out our fourth and final class.
So, Technomancer, Pyromancer, Trickster, and Devastator. This is low bar RPG stuff. This doesn't have complex skill trees. We will see that later. This doesn't have complex min-maxing, which is a good thing in this game.
The Technomancer. Enoch's anomaly storms might have fried tech for everyone else, but they unleashed abilities for the Technomancer to infuse powers into weaponry at their will. Thus, this class can exploit technology to the most brutal capacity. You can find timecodes in the description if you want to skip to a specific topic, but we recommend sitting back and absorbing all the information on our machinery manipulating Technomancer.
I have become terror.
You can't find
The unseen predator.
You can't find me from
A rupture that obliterates without warning.
It's brutal, we get that.
Who is this class for? Technomancers will appeal to a huge spread of players, simply thanks to their enormous versatility. However, the Technomancer's skill set will be utilised best by players who pay special attention to the flow of combat, beyond just raw damage. The status effects that Technomancers can inflict.
This is especially a game where watching it is going to be much worse than playing it, because of the camera movement that's not your own. Third person is very dangerous in that regard. I think the same applies to Godfall, by the way. It looked very bland and boring from watching it, but I don't think it is. I think it's got something going for it. I wish I could get a review key for Godfall, but I don't think I will. I'm gonna try, but it's too pricey for me. I can't get it currently. Not every game is a Polish game. Enjoy a beer.
As well as their boss skill interrupts and their unique ability to heal squad mates, mean that they are suited to fill in support roles. That's not to say Technomancers can't bring the pain. Packing an arsenal of weaponry and their summoning abilities, combined with a strong focus on sniper rifles, mean that they are the ideal class for any players intended to lone wolf their way through Enoch.
Lone wolf your way, right? So you saw in the bottom right, behind the subtitles. I'm gonna vanish. You've got a health bar. You've got health points. You've got your controller focus development on quickly picking skills with the left and right button, combo clicking, and I can see 3 different weapons with ammunition counters on the right. Isn't Captain Jack a rum? So let's go to a point where you see the skill tree. This is the Technomancer. Melee skill, healing mechanic, some stats. And then you have 3, they call it skill trees, but it's just, you know, the old 1-2 decision here. This or that, and then you share this, and you share this, and then you have this big thing, and then this or that. So it's 3 different ways of this or that. That gives you enough, it gives you enough variety to play the character twice, or as in single player and multiplayer. I'm not sure if there's much more to it. Up here you can see there's a journal, a quest map, an inventory. So RPG, most definitely, but very light. Light load. Which is not bad, right? Class-based, third-person shooter. There are not many good ones out there. And the fact that this is playable as single player and multiplayer, and there's no PvP, there's not going to be a season pass. It's an out-of-the-box complete experience. That's how they market it. And I'm very happy about that. I'm not against service games. I'm not against DLCs as such, but I do like a game that comes, you know, not in a physical box, but done and complete, and I can play it and then move on. It's good that they release this, even though it would probably be super tempting to add a DLC. They might make an expansion or whatever, but you have 4 classes in the game. It's completely balanced towards those, and that's it. I will judge them by the way they handle it after the release. If there's going to be, we have this expansion though that finishes the story, then they have done a very bad job at marketing it. But if they stick to the full release and make a second game or whatever, I'm going to be cool with that. Right? So we see here the skill trees, which is very important. Now I'm going to show you a bit more gameplay. Just the complete trailer is very long. I'm just trying to analyze a few bits and pieces here. Unlimited ammo in the heavy duty machine gun here. So then that enemy has 2 symbols and a name and a 2-tiered health bar. Right, I saw grenade warning on the screen, so there's a lot of information coming your way. There are buffs that you can see over here. So there are buffs going, I think, if I interpret this correctly. So that's what they do.
The Tool of Destruction works a little differently to other skills in Outriders, in that it has alternate modes.
It seems like a
Activating the skill via
fast-paced
button
game.
Press equips your Technomancer with a rocket launcher, but activating the skill by holding down the button will instead equip a minigun. However, the rocket launcher has the added bonus of interrupting enemies it damages. Let's watch that clip again. That orange bar means an enemy is charging up a skill, but the RPG interrupts them, preventing them from casting it.
Old school. It's, you know, it's kind of neat that they explain this, because that's a very a spell interrupt or ability interrupt is a very RPG thing. There's munitions that you can pick up here, ammo boxes, buffs and debuffs under the enemy's health bar. There's a duration counter on the turret, or a health counter on the turret, and this is probably going to be loot, isn't it? I still don't think it's a loot shooter.
Which, particularly when going toe-to-toe with bosses and captains, can mean the difference between victory
Got elite monsters, boss
and a
monsters.
team wipeout. Power 2, Fixing Wave. For those of you who prefer to play as support or
So that's where they explain their skill trees, which is not very exciting. Maybe we need a generic gameplay trailer for that. I'm not sure if they offer that. So there's loot in the game. I'm not sure if it will have a very large impact on how the game plays if there's tiered loot. not sure. The assassin is a different
Peggy
class.
18.
But you'll be hurt and need to be healed. This power you unlock as a trickster. And it's the class's bread and butter. All enemies hit by the slash will be temporarily paralyzed, which is displayed by their skeletons becoming visible.
So, the games I want to compare this to are Borderlands, Godfall, and Remnant from the Ashes, which will get a follow-up game, by the way. I forgot his name. I will not get it because I was disappointed with how Remnant ended. Remnant is getting a follow-up game. So Outriders combines RPG stuff with shooting. It has a cover system. It has squad-based co-op. But it's definitely also a single-player experience. It looked very, very fast-paced. I was quite surprised. It looked nearly as fast as Borderlands, with a actual cover mechanic, whereas in Borderlands I crouch behind a box, and I don't have a special effect with like ducking down and shooting over the cover or something. But that might just be visual. It might be that it's very, very similar to Borderlands. It has 4 playable characters. It has loot. It's a bit grittier. But it's also a fantasy sci-fi loot. I'm not sure if it's loot based. I think it's class based RPG stuff, and you need items for that. So it has loot in it, but it's not defined by the loot. Whereas Borderlands very much is defined by the guns you find in. Well, I'm not sure for Borderlands 3. The class you play has a big impact, but the enabling bits are the guns. So Borderlands is defined by the loot, and therefore there is a looter shooter. What did you call it earlier? Schluter. I blame you for this. Outriders, I think, is defining itself more about the RPG, the character skills, and then there are also guns. Basically, it would be the same thing. You can tag it. It has loot. It's shooting and done. But if you weigh it, Borderlands is definitely the game that is about the loot, and Outriders is a game that also has loot. For Godfall, I would say the same. Godfall is a game that also has loot, as in rarity and random numbers. Randomized numbers that are pre-balanced with a lot of work put in, I should add. So I will definitely hold my breath for Outriders because I think it might be really good. And it's going to do something, hopefully, that Remnant from the Ashes did not achieve. Because it has quests and a story and a world that's being built around the gameplay. And what Remnant ruined for me, really, they started out building up atmosphere. It was very enjoyable. I read all the notes I found, and I was very interested in finding out what it all comes down to. And it came down to nothing. The longer I played, the more pointless the story and the world became. It was not a good mystery like in the beginning. It was just ending. It was thin. There was nothing left. It got so ridiculous by the end that I nearly not finished the game. Because I thought the atmosphere of Remnant in the beginning was amazing. The loot in Remnant is nearly non-existent. You get a reward for fighting a boss, and that's crafting a new weapon. It also drops, but that doesn't matter. It's not really loot. The only things you have are pickups, like ammo and health. Or currency. And that's not loot. So Remnant is definitely not a loot shooter. Remnant is a third-person action game. It doesn't even have much in terms of role playing. You have different classes, but they are interchangeable. You're defined by the equipment, but it's not loot defined as in Borderlands. So it's an RPG adventure or action game. So Outriders will have a bit more loot in it. It's just, they are all loot shooters. If you look at Steam, they are all loot shooters. But they are inherently different. They are at their core gameplay so different from one another that it hurts my head if I put them all in the same bucket. You know what I mean? It hurts my head. It's I mean, obviously everybody who watches a gameplay video puts their own context on top of that, right? You have experience with RPGs, for example. Where's the skill tree? So if you have a lot of experience with RPGs and you see a simplified system as in Outriders, depending on your previous experiences and your personal preferences, you might think this is too simplified, I hate it. And if you're not that vocal about your emotions, you will just say, that's not for me, and go up to the next game. And obviously that protects us from just taking it as a whole bucket of random things. But it's if you do research, if you think, I want to play a shooter, I'm not sure what's going to be the next shooter I play, and you start doing research like I did for the first games we talked about today, you end up thinking they are all very different. How are they marketed all as loot shooters? That's not good. And sometimes they are not marketed as loot shooters, but the general public journalism picks it up, or the community of interested players puts it in the bucket. Sometimes it's not even the developers themselves. They don't start it. They have to react to it in some way, and some accept that they are being tagged as a loot shooter, and others fight it, as in providing more information, more in-depth videos, gameplay reveals, and leaks and such. So that makes releasing a game in a genre that is as old as the shooters, it makes it very hard to release a game without getting the wrong expectations flaring up. And I absolutely understand that it's a hard world for developers and publishers to make sense of what customers want. Obviously, from a customer perspective, I could deal with less bullshit and more focus on gameplay, but it might not be what sells nicely. You know, fluff and push-pull effects to make content appear longer than it actually is. One theory, by the way, is that loot is the inception of the idea of loot in a game was only to stretch the thin content. It's obviously not correct, but it could be that some games add loot to make them appear more complex than they are. I think Godfall is very, very close to being in that danger zone. It's like, we got smashing things here and shiny armor, and it's good fun to kill things. I really hope it's not defined. I really hope it's not trying to be defined by the loot, because it does look like it. Maybe a bit more than Outriders. I don't know. But in both games, and I think that's on purpose, it was not made a selling point in the videos that there are lots of things to pick up with a variety of quality and lots of numbers. I think that was on purpose. It's to avoid being tagged as, this is Borderlands reskin. Because if as soon as that happens and you can't get it removed from the reception areas, which are YouTube and game sites and Steam. If you can't remove that, you have to fight against Borderlands, right? If the loot shooter sticks, you will always be. So how does this compare to Borderlands? And that's just not fair, because they are so different from their original focus. Right. I hope you can follow my train of thought there. It's kind of a big one that came to be when I started doing the shooter discovery, when we went back to the first ones, to the very Catacombs and Doom and Quake, and now we are at around 2010-11, and I learned so much about how a genre has to fight, or if you imagine you're a publisher or a developer, it doesn't really matter, and you want to put a game out. One person made the game and wants other people to enjoy their product, and others want to make money by sharing those products with other people. So they want to get it out there, and they have to be very aware, and lots of them are absolutely not. They have to be very aware of the before. And that's why I think retrofied games like Graven and Wrath are possibly both at the same time. They are very aware of the past and then also not. Because not everything about the old shooters is good. The nostalgia trap is a big one. And it could be that it's a marketing masterpiece if you if you make a game that runs on every fridge display in 2021, and it looks exactly like that other old game that I heard about. But it could be that they reintroduce a simplicity to a genre that kind of lost this simplicity because it went through a process of evolution, which spawned from Doom, also shooters that added more things like RPG elements and more story and, I don't know, open world and, multi-tagged store item on Steam, every shooter. And after that evolution reached a pinnacle, and I'm not going to say Doom Eternal because it's Quake 3, it starts to go, maybe it's not the newest shit anymore, and not everybody's playing shooters, and then you can go back and say, but back then we had this awesome, outstanding quality of the shooters, which was you turn them on, you run at monsters and shoot them dead, and then you keep running and shoot more monsters dead until you're finished, and you see you finished the game. It's awesome. That's it. No loot, no new game plus, nothing. It's just you finished the game. It was awesome. You killed a lot of things. And that was one of the outstanding qualities in 1984. Sometimes it might work out if you go back to that outstanding quality 40 years later, that you think, yeah, it's still awesome. But it might also be that people are like, but where's the loot? So I think that makes it very interesting and very dangerous to try to make money in that business. From the perspective of the developer, I think it's just that people have ideas, and some of these ideas have enough dynamic to get out there. The people driving those ideas are stubborn, and they are headstrong, and they don't give up, and then their ideas get out there, and then they have to deal with all this history. Whereas Catacombs didn't have to deal with any history of games of its kind because it was one of the first. It had to deal with comparison to other things like proper time spending things like walking about in the open and playing with real people or whatever. It had other competitors, so to speak. And yeah, this is the whole thought process that I went through by doing the rediscovery streams and the history of the shooters. And now that we have the 4th episode of talking about games, the shooters have a bigger spot in there than other genres for that reason. Right, full stop. you think about that for a minute. And just what to expect for 2021. I will do a similar discovery for 2 more genres next year. I hope I can do 2 genres. I will pick the games a bit differently. And I'm not going to tell you with which genres yet. I have a few that I would like to do. But I will try to display them in a different selection. I will try to display them in a similar fashion, but as a different selection. You will see. Because I enjoyed this year a lot because of those discovery marathons or rediscovery marathons. It was among the best stuff that I streamed, I think. Now I will switch to another genre because so many shooters. We can talk about shooters again soon. Hey Lily, welcome. We are talking about games, Lily. It's the fourth time this year. I'm doing a talk show, which is me. I'm showing you that I talk a lot about games. And today I talked a lot about shooters already. We had Wrath, Eon of Ruin, Graven, the Mass Effect remaster, Outriders, which is going to be released next year in February, Godfall. We have invented a new word or a new game category. It's called Schluter. And you can blame chat because I didn't do that. Chat did. They called it Schluters. Don't think about it too long. It's disgusting. But yeah, that's what we've been talking about. And we talked about Biomutant, which is not really a shooter, but it has loot in it. It's an open world game about furry things fighting other furry things. And it's very cute looking. And I really hope it's going to be developed to its final point and be released next year. For the last 2 years, the word was Biomutant's not going to happen. But it is. Shooters haven't changed much, no, but there have been so many subgenres that changed a lot. The loot shooters. I'll go back to that later. I'll try to end the talk today on the loot question. I wrote it down here, one mechanic to control them all and in the eternal circle bind them. I hope that Mr. Tolkien will forgive me that I stole from him. But we will talk about that again later on because it's one topic that I think will stick to games. It's for a very bad reason, and maybe for a good reason as well, but also for a very bad reason. I want to hear your thoughts on that later. So gather them up. There's going to be a questionnaire later. And now we will go from shooters to a genre that is really a niche, I think. Strategy games. I noted it down here as real-time strategy, but we're going to look at strategy in general. So let's start with King's Bounty 2. Have you ever heard about King's Bounty? As in the game. Yes. Okay, very good. You didn't win a prize now, but I'm very proud of you. Just missed it. Okay, let's see. We're gonna hear King's Bounty. We do a very short history lesson. Internet is slow today. I hope the stream is not hiccuping. You haven't heard of it. That's good. King's Bounty is a game from 1990. The original. I'm going to use Wikipedia if I'm allowed to. King's Bounty, a turn-based fantasy video game. That's what Wikipedia says. It should say strategy game, but it's important for Wikipedia to say it's a video game. That works like that. King's Bounty was the predecessor for Heroes of Might and Magic. It was the first. Do we have a screenshot here? No. We can check it at. It can be played for free at the Internet Archive. That's better. Showing gameplay is better. I actually played this on my DOS machine. Do we have sound? King's Bounty. Are we loading still? Select your character by pressing A, B, C, or D, or L to load. A, this guy. B, that other guy. C, the guy without clothing. And then, oh no, that's D. And C is the sorceress with a fancy dress. So, let's go for the guy who cannot afford clothing. He's a barbarian. We call him Jim. Jim the Barbarian, on easy difficulty, has 900 days and only gets half the high score. On normal difficulty, he has 600 days to finish the game, right? Jim the Barbarian, a new game is being created. Please wait. So, this is King's Bounty. You are Jim the Barbarian, suddenly in armor on a horse. And on the right side of the screen, you see a catapult, a pentagram, some red things, and currency, probably. Two different kinds. And there's a character portrait. If we press C, we go to the controls, which is turning animations on and off. Oops. We can use the cursor keys to move our character. And on the top right, you see the time counter. So we can move around. We are now in the town of Hunterville. We can rent a boat for 500 gold a week. We can get a new contract. We can gather information. We can learn the bridge spell. Or buy siege weapons with a typo. Yeah, it should. Let's buy... let's get a contract. Murray the Miser wants to pay us 5,000 gold. Oh no, there's a bounty on him. Ah, he's wanted for various petty crimes as well as for treason. He allowed a group of pirates to enter the castle and free criminals. So we have a bounty to catch Murray the Miser. Oh, sorry, I keep pressing escape. So now that's our bounty. We are supposed to find him. Right? And we can gather information. Castle Vutar is under no one's rule. A few zombies, many sprites, a few wolves, a few elves, and a few ghosts are in there. If I press escape, I also leave full screen. That's a bit of an oversight, but yeah. So now we would explore the land to find Murray the Miser. And we hobble along on our horsey, and we find evil knights. Your scouts have sighted a few skeletons, a few vampires, and many sprites. Do you attack? Of course. We're a barbarian. We can win every fight. Hi, Crom. Sadly, we only have 20 wolves, and we will probably lose this. My turn is done. Oh, now we get attacked. No. Vampires can fly. Oh, they killed 2 of my wolves. Oh god. So, that's the first King's Bounty game. Play it for free on the Internet Archive. King's Bounty 1 was the predecessor directly for Might and Magic 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Up to Might and Magic. Heroes of Might and Magic, sorry. Heroes of Might and Magic 7. Also, King's Bounty was being transferred into a reimagination of the first game. And that was a completely different team behind that. And I had a nice Wikipedia article that I should use more because it's not bad. In 2008, King's Bounty: The Legend was released. Awesome game. I really, really liked it. Was developed by the Russian studio Qatari, who were not very popular ever. So King's Bounty: The Legend is a very, very good game. It spawned many other titles: King's Bounty, Armored Princess, Crosswords, Warriors of the North, Darkside. Basically, starting with Armored Princess, they upgraded the engine a bit and the battles were more satisfying, but from then on, they were basically similar games. Very, very similar games. King's Bounty 2 now is a follow-up to the original 2008 release, as in it's also a spiritual successor. And they changed, and they have nailed it here, a new engine, because they were all the same engine here, the other games. And it's more realistic. King's Bounty was very fantasy, very high fantasy stuff. King's Bounty 2 is going to be, well, more realistic is probably not the right term. They say grittier. I'm not sure if that's correct. This isn't the game you were thinking of. Oh, interesting. Yeah, Heroes of Might and Magic 2 was awesome, but I think the third one is the best game. I always feel like Heroes of Might and Magic 4 was super interesting because it was an outrider. It did completely different things and was semi-successful with that. I still have good memories of the fourth one. But not because it's the best game in the series. Yeah, the music is it's etched into my brain forever. Heroes of Might and Magic is probably the game I spent the most hours on in my life, next to Diablo 1 and 2. I spent so much time playing and replaying them. Turn-based strategy games. And King's Bounty 2 is also going to be a turn-based strategy game. There are not many turn-based strategy games. I think this is not a popular genre because it's so many words. People after turn-based will fall asleep already. Let's watch the official release trailer, reveal trailer, sorry, for King's Bounty 2. Oxy, welcome. Good to see ya. Right.
Every citizen of our kingdom has a right to live a calm and peaceful life. To live without fear and reap what they sow. But now, that very life we hold dear hangs over our heads. Will you take up arms? Will you fight for our people? Strengthen your resolve and fight the darkness that aims to consume us all.
Zombies.
Will you fight for our people? Will you fight for your king?
No. So that's the catchy reveal trailer, which I think is way too hectic. Way too hectic. But, you know, it shows a bit of stuff. Yeah, Warriors of the North is not the most popular one in the series. I haven't played the Dark what's it called? Something with vampires. I haven't played that yet. Warriors of the North was hard. It had some glitches. Dark Side, that's the one. Yeah. They are all very cool games. I'm a big fan of both. it's not a big company. 1C is the biggest Russian company, but it's still not a big company compared to what happens on in Europe or America, the US for that matter. So I think that is necessary to know. But yeah, the trailer is not good. I agree. Darkside. Have you played Darkside, Oxy? I did like the setting in Warriors of the North a lot. And this is now the developers talking about what changed. It's also not a good video, but it explains nicely what's gonna be different compared to the previous games.
You can go wherever you want and do whatever you want. I must have spent 1,000 hours in this game. King's Bounty is a genre of its own.
I'm not sure why it's so blurry. That's my internet is weird today. It's 1080p originally. I just can let it load completely before we watch it. Okay.
King's Bounty series has gone through 3 major stages. The first was its inception back in 1990, when John Van Caneghem made the first game. It became a milestone in the video game industry and paved the way for the Heroes of Might and Magic series. Then in 2008, 1Z Entertainment and Katauri Interactive brought the franchise back with King's Bounty, The Legend, which was very well received both in Russia and across the globe. I think we were incredibly lucky to get a hold of such a reputable brand. It all began back when I'd been talking with Dmitry Gusarov.
Trailer guys. I like their deep voice, but the way they read text is not good. I can't just... I would prefer the fancy accent lady from Outriders over trailer guy. I've got a very deep voice, but only one way to stress syllables. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there was no money left for making fancy trailers.
Creator of another popular series, Space Rangers, about his next project. He showed me his drafts for a strategy game with turn-based combat, and at some point mentioned that he would love to create the next King's Bounty. I told him I'll think about it, and it all came together. In 2008, 1Z Entertainment and Katauri brought King's Bounty back. It was...
So, King's Bounty did come about... The graphics are not super impressive. The gameplay had some bugs and some glitches and was not super balanced. But they always had a special place in my game library. They were very challenging games. You had to think and plan and be smart to win them or beat them, like Oxy pointed out. Yeah, I know. It's all good. But to say they are a huge success outside of Russia is probably a bit much. I don't know the sales numbers. And I know there's a special dedicated community to both Heroes of Might and Magic and the King's Bounty games. I think it does need a trailer, Oxy, because they change quite a lot. I already read infuriated fans' reactions to the changes to the gameplay. You need warm clothing for that.
Sort of a remake of the original King's Bounty from 1990, but scaled up to the modern standards. Now we're working on King's Bounty 2, which takes all the best features from previous games and takes the series to the next level.
King's Bounty — это...
King's Bounty is a unique franchise developed by different people and in different technological eras.
в разное время.
But even though it keeps evolving, it stays true to its roots and keeps the spirit of the genre that was established back in 1990 by Van Caneghem. What do all games in this franchise have in common? First off,
show us more gameplay,
tactics, which is probably the most interesting part, but it's also an RPG. With a hero
I think I
who
got the wrong
explores
video.
world, completes quests, masters new skills and spells, and so on. So it's a fusion of RPG.
I didn't want the whole history. I wanted the gameplay changes.
Unit, but on army versus army combat. Also, each army may have a leader. In players' case, it's their main character. Leaders do not engage in direct combat, but they improve performance of their troops. They also cast various spells, ranging from support to direct damage.
That didn't change.
С тактической точки зрения...
Tactics-wise, the most important new feature of King's Bounty 2 is that we now have 3D arenas that allow players to use differences in height and various features of the land to gain actual tactical advantage.
преимущество в процессе боя.
Very important change.
3D arenas cause you to think differently, even about familiar units. Take archers, for example. Now you can avoid their fire by finding some cover, like a hill. In previous games, it worked differently. If there was some kind of obstacle or the distance was too large, we still allowed the shot, but with reduced damage. We don't do that anymore. If archers don't have a line of fire, they can't shoot.
So, that is one point where people went ballistic because they hated the fact that you couldn't shoot without line of sight. It's very cute. Let's go here.
Before a fight begins, players will see the composition of the enemy army and can look up enemy stats, abilities, and so on. They can choose not to start the fight, change the composition of their army, and only then engage in battle. Undead belong to a different ideal than Nostria units, and they won't get along well. But sometimes they're very useful. For example, in the aforementioned Outpost arena, if you don't have the ally unit, you should get as many skeletons.
So what changes also is that you know more about the fight before you start it. In the other games, you would get an estimate and you would count enemy units and you would have to know about the units. So I think it's going to be easier for new players to join the fight, because the entry, the threshold to enter King's Bounty and enjoy it, the whole series was quite high. It was not very approachable, and it still is sort of a special snowflake in many regards. So there's a lot of work in this game when it comes to gameplay, presentation, and they change from super high fantasy and a bit colorful, silly stuff to more. It said grittier in the Wikipedia article. I think that's a good word for it. I hope it will pan out for them, because as far as strategy games go, King's Bounty is really good.
So they can take more troops with them. Mage, on the other hand, has a very small army, but very powerful spells and buffs.
При этом...
No, that didn't change. That's still the same King's Bounty style approach. So depending on which character you play as a hero, your gameplay experience will be completely different, and I think that's pretty cool. So that's King's Bounty, a classic turn-based strategy game with hex pieces where you move your armies, and I'm a huge fan of that type of game. The thing with the strategy games, with the turn-based strategy games, is that there are not many out there. So I think King's Bounty will be a very good entry in that genre. I had trouble finding more. Turn-based strategy, if it's not XCOM, there's not much. There was what was it called? The Cold War Phantom Doctrine. That was a turn-based strategy game, but it was not the same with army management like in King's Bounty or Heroes of Might and Magic. So army management, as in non-World War setting, turn-based strategy game, there are not many out there. Age of Wonders is amazing. Have you played Planetfall? I always play them without multiplayer, so I can guess that non-balanced multiplayer kills most of those, right? Planetfall is really pretty to look at, and it has all the good stuff of the series, I think. I didn't play it much though, but it looked very good. I played Age of Wonders 3 a lot. Ah, cool. I think it has some nice things going with the setting. Oh, on the Xbox you have to play it with the controller, obviously. I would not like that. Another subgenre of the strategy game that is one game series alone is Spellforce. Spellforce is a mix of real-time strategy and RPG. Story-driven RPG. And Spellforce 3 got a DLC recently. Let me quickly check. We're gonna have a look at Metal Hellsinger later. Here. So, 12 days ago, Spellforce 3 got an expansion or a DLC or however. I think it's an expansion, actually. And the combination of real-time strategy and role-playing game is quite unique for Spellforce. I'm not sure if there's any other game that does that. I have not even played Spellforce 3 yet, but I watched some of the gameplay footage for the new stuff they put out, and it's quite impressive looking. So Spellforce 3 was 2017, and this is now an expansion for that game, right? Spellforce 3, 2017, 3 years later. So they keep working on it, and it seems to be high quality content that they put out. I really should get around to play Spellforce. Oh, Armello is special. You say it already. It's a board game style. I tried it in single player, and then I found it completely completely useless. Maybe not that, but it was not good fun as a single player game. I bet it's good as a multiplayer. But as far as new stuff goes, there's not much coming out this year or next year in the strategy sphere that is not about tanks and some World War. Yeah, it's absolutely focusing on the multiplayer experience, which is kind of awesome. Not many games in that genre do that. So King's Bounty and Spellforce 3 are the ones you can look out for if you want something different, I think. Then there's Starship Troopers. But before we do that, I want to show you, did I save it? Yeah. That's Spellforce 3. 3 years ago. I hope it's not too loud. It's a good looking game. Proper RPG, complex system. So you have a complex RPG system and you play an actual role-playing character. So you have a hero person and they've got lots of attributes and skills, and you have to manage that in real time while you're fighting, while you're building a base, while you're building an army. That's one of the reasons why this is not a huge success, because the target audience is rather small. But I think it's worth noting that Spellforce has 3 games now, and there's probably no other game that comes close to this this amount of quality for this type of genre, where you mix heroes with army building and base building. The animations look a bit wobbly, don't they? It looks a bit janky.
You did it.
Boy, Nihal, you did it?
Area of Finnanmere. You are hereby found guilty of breaking the new laws by using magic to slay 3 soldiers of the Royal Army.
Yeah. It's not an indie game. It's quite a huge success, actually, the whole series. Or maybe it is an indie game, I don't know. THQ Nordic is behind it, so it's not an indie game. But I know what you mean, T-Bank. It's a very special type of game, and I didn't find the story cringeworthy, to be honest. But yeah, the first game was your regular role-playing story. Yeah. Yeah, the first one was the first one. The first one spawned the second one. No, the first one spawned 2 expansions, I think. Then the second one, then the third one. Are they to be taken serious? Yeah. I think when you I said the similar things about Mass Effect earlier. It's being heralded. It's being praised for its story, for its character development, for its storytelling bravado. But if I set out and take it serious, it's a laughing matter. Because then I would have to go and say, yeah, but it's not a book, is it? It's not a proper story. It's a game with a good story, but that's not the same as a good story. So I think it's a bit of a thin ice. If you say you want to take stuff seriously, it's still a game. It's a game about some heroes that do stuff, and there's a similar train of thought that happens a lot to myself as well, of course, with realism. And yes, of course, I don't really want to take it seriously because it's really laughable. Why would the dwarf be the hero of that story and so on? Or why does it always need to be someone who needs rescuing to kick off the story? But if you start talking about taking things serious in a fantasy game and making things realistic in a game as such, I think that's always very thin ice. I understand absolutely where it comes from, and I have similar thoughts, but it's nothing I would judge a game by if I can avoid it. Unless the game is about realism, well, or about really good stories. So, for example, if let's see, The Wolf Among Us is a very, very good story game, a very good story, and a very good game. The Wolf Among Us, that's a very good game. Very good story, and I can take it serious, although its presentation is rather gamey. But yeah, translation can be a thing. Yeah, translation can be a thing. It's really not a real-time strategy game. You shouldn't expect StarCraft or Warcraft. It's said here for a short moment. It's a 30-hour single-player campaign. That's what I meant by story-driven. It's actually a big part of this. It still has multiplayer, and yet they pointed out you can play it in co-op. Not sure how that works. But yeah, Spellforce. If you get it on sale, currently this is a silly price. So that's a big nope. But yeah, it should be on sale around Christmas, and then you should get it for real cheap. Not that that's the only reason to look for games, but yeah, Spellforce 3 is a unique blend of role-playing game and strategy. They market it as RTS. Do we have a screenshot with a big army? Only the one earlier, huh? So you manage your hero, and you manage your town building, your economy, and you manage the army. But it plays very different, and it is still very unique. I'm not sure if there's any other game that is similar. So that's Spellforce, and then we get to something that is being marketed as a real-time strategy game, and that's Starship Troopers. And I had to look that up twice. Alpha, right? Alpha. Very early. Bugs! Very slow bugs. Laser shooting scorpions. What? So I see what they want to do. Do you want to know more? I see what they want to do. I think it's been delayed. It's not going to be released this year, hopefully. This is from last year in December. And obviously Starship Troopers is a setting Slytherin are doing it. You might have heard about Slytherin. Strategy games. Warhammer 40k Gladius is the one that I would probably think is the best one. They also made Fantasy General and lots of other general games. So they know they know their strategy. Going for Starship Troopers though, I don't know. I mean, they do 40k, right? If you do Warhammer 40k, you know weird and over the top stuff. So I'm not sure how much Gladius does nail the Warhammer 40k feeling or atmosphere, but potentially this could be fun, but it could also be very, very boring and taking all the silly, over the top, crazy stuff away and leave us with very bland decisions of where we could kill the bugs best. But that makes it very interesting, I think. I do love the movie Starship Troopers, and it's the game is based on the world that it was created in the book. So they would probably stick to the whole also political aspect that it has. I'm not sure. It does make it a very interesting game to follow. I'm not really sure if it's going to be good. It's not necessary for me to be good, but I find it refreshing that someone is making a Starship Troopers game as a real-time strategy. And just imagine the bugs are animated properly and are very fast, and then you could have fun. This looks very clinical. I wouldn't have shown this to anyone, but that's just me. Yeah. But it's supposed to be a full-fledged RTS when it's done. So if you're into Starship Troopers, at least keep an eye on it. It might become something worthwhile. It might also not. It might completely go to the pile of shame that we're not talking about. Right. So that's what I could find about strategy. Age of Empires 4? Anyone? Probably in 2021, but they're very hush-hush about it. After seeing Age of Empires 3, I hope they do things completely different. It wasn't as such a bad game, what I played, but it was very odd. Because I did expect sort of Age of Empires 2 and then good looking. That's not what I got. But that's not my fault, actually, is it? So Age of Empires 4 is gonna be something I will be very careful about being interested in, but it's definitely something that I will look at. It's the chance to get the series back on top, because there's not much going on in the genre this year at all. But yeah, I don't even, do I have a trailer for that? I don't think so. Oh, there's a gameplay trailer, but it's old. Sorry. I'm not sure if it's gameplay trailer. More like a cinematic. There was one thing I wanted to talk about though. See, there was a reason I had this on my list. Hills, slopes, and so on. The third Age of Empires already had some height differences, but they didn't really go far enough to make it a big impact, as far as I could tell. In this one, that's last year in November, but in this one, it looks like they are making more with height and the actual combat. pre-alpha, so it could all be completely reworked by now. But it looks like it. Army coming over a hill. And this is not a cinematic trailer, this is actually in-game, in-engine. So they are coming down the hill. Could be cool. On the last zoom out, though, I think it might indicate that in fact it's all leveled again. I don't really know, but that's all I could find about real-time strategy or strategy games in general that I found interesting. So that genre, any new ideas? I couldn't find many, with one exception, but that's a very indie thing. Oh, Age of Empires 3 is old. The remaster was very recent. You work for us now. Let's have a look. Age of Empires 3 was released in 2005. So it's old. The remaster that I showed on stream was released this year. The definitive edition. October 15 this year. The definitive edition has 4K graphics, which does not really help at all, with 2 expansions included. Oh no! So the original Age of Empires 3 is old. Back then it got very favorable reviews by things I never heard about. Oh, Gloomhaven is awesome. The tabletop or the PC version? A bit. We still haven't started the expansion. On Wikipedia, one of the outstanding features is that it's a very heavy board game. Yeah, the PC game needs a few years of work. The board game is just really good. Yeah. It's a lot of game in there. Gloomhaven is awesome because you have different classes that you can play, and you can show it to your kids, but they will probably only understand half of it. It's a dungeon crawler with it has a big campaign map that you play on. It has a cool story, and it has modular dungeons to play. You can even play a randomizer. Yeah, I think we spent more than 200 hours on the play sessions. The board game was definitely absolutely worth it. The story is really cool as well. Yeah. Kohan? Well, I'm looking for new things in the genre. Not particularly all the things ever. Well, not today, at least. Never heard about Kohan, though. I've never heard about that. It's a 2001 release. Looks a bit like Warlord. Yeah, maybe give the PC game a bit of time to grow. That might be worth it. He looks like the Mentat from Dune. So you also have a hero with abilities, like the hero person, the army. Terrain has an impact, like in Age of Wonders. Okay, cool. I've never heard about that. Who are Timegate? Okay, they only made these. 2011 was the follow-up. Oh, that looks like it's the same game. What? I know. It's dangerous out there. Yeah, okay. Huh. Well, today I wouldn't pick this up anymore, but back then it might have been very cool. It seems to have some good things going for it. And basically filling the gap between Warlords and Heroes of Might and Magic and Age of Wonders, maybe. Yeah, I mean, if I'm not opposed to old stuff, but today we're talking about what happens this year or next year. And I did go back quite a bit for the King's Bounty explanation, but I think it was necessary to put it on its rightful spot. The close connection to the original game and the Heroes of Might and Magic series is kind of important to know about if you look at King's Bounty. I mean, I love, Oxy, what you said earlier, that it just doesn't need a trailer, it just needs the announcement. There's going to be King's Bounty 2. I hope they will get a few new players in with a different take, but it's still going to be very, very high threshold to get into that, I think. So it's already what? It's already 8:30. Okay, I always want to talk about more things that I can actually do per stream. Now we're gonna this is extra. I wanted to tell you about this here. That's an indie game, a story-driven tactical RTS with stealth and RPG elements, and that's where you can already say, yeah, okay, of course no one wanted that, and publish it because it's too much. But as it goes with ideas like that, it could be that this is awesome. Same with Biomutant, maybe. You know, you have a small team that works on a really cool idea. It's too cool an idea to make it into something that you can develop and publish and make money at the same time. So because then you are in danger of your idea not appealing to so many people as you would have thought, and your story not convincing so many people as you would have thought. And then on top of that, your stealth RTS RPG tactics gameplay is sort of hard to understand for someone who has not developed it for 8 years. That is always the danger with you know, scope and idea, and how do you pitch it to players, potential players. But stay with me for a minute, 2 minutes.
Okay.
Isometric.
Got it.
Squad based. RPG elements.
Okay.
Let's do it.
And just going back a minute, I had to think of a mix of what's it called again? The hardcore military tactics thing with mercenaries. Oh God, I'm having brain farts. Hey Skipper, welcome. Oh God. Jagged Alliance, that's the one. Thank you so much. Jagged Alliance. That's the one I was thinking about. I had to think of a weird clone between Fallout, Jagged Alliance, and Commandos, what I played yesterday, Blades of the Shogun. And then I had to think of 7 Days Long Gone, which is a non-squad stealth commandos. We'll see. Let's watch some more.
Let's do it.
Hitting that. Roger. Find cover!
Get to the chopper. It has a pause, so it's not a real-time strategy game. It's more like in Baldur's Gate, for example, where you have multiple characters that you control, which each have different abilities that you can actively use, and you can pause and give commands and then execute. I mean, it looks a bit like the RTS setup with the user interface, right? You've got the map, the Dawn of War looking user controls here, and the behind my face, you have the character pictures of the currently selected units. But that does not make it an RTS, does it? So, that being said, I kind of like ideas like this, you know, where you go ahead and say, okay, we want to do, I would say this is a science fiction RPG with tactical combat, but four is the magic number, isn't it, T-Bank? You are absolutely correct. The number 4, as in squad size, popped up today in at least 3 games. The manageable number. So this is obviously an indie product. There's no big studio behind it. There's no big money behind it. I think the mistake here is to call it RTS. I mean, yes, you have a base and you have units and you can probably produce soldiers, as in, hire them or train them in barracks on a timer even, if you click B like building. But I think they would be better off telling them, the people, that's an RPG with tactical combat or, tactical real-time strategy game with a pause stealth RPG element. That's just not. It's just how am I supposed to wrap my head around that? And if I watch this is gameplay. This is actual gameplay, and there are vehicles and there are quests and there's a story to it, and it's not Warhammer, it's not Fallout, it's none of the overused. I don't know, we've got aliens and they want to kill every human story. It's not the usual post-apocalyptic approach. So I think there's a lot here that is awesome, but it might be that it's too much for it to be a successful game, because as a player, I can't handle that. I have to do too much. I have to accept the story, which is probably not going to be that awesome. I also have to accept the fact that it's not a proper RTS. And it's also not a proper stealth game. And it's also not a proper squad game, because it has more than 4 people. Elmon, welcome. In the old days of the Commodore 64. Oh man. It's been a while. The thing is, Captain Nemo has been around for some time and nobody knows how old he is, right? So it's pretty good. Welcome to the chat. So yeah, Grey Zone. For those of you who dare to venture into the independently released experimental games, I'm keeping my eye on this one because I think it's potentially a cool game. But yeah, it could easily end up being convoluted and trying to punch above its class. That's easy to do, but I meant to show that Grey Zone, because if and there's the link, if Spellforce can work, this also might. Because if you read the description, what is Spellforce, it's also just yeah, right. We talked about that last time when I was playing Hades. You mentioned it. But it's still in early access, isn't it, Dead Gods? I mean, this Grey Zone is also in early access. Yeah, next year. I'm leaving the whole rogue genre out today because it's just it's too much for one day. I have mainly shooters and story RPG stuff, which I'm leading over now. Very smart. Increasing the story from just shooters to shooters with loot and story, and now we have a story and strategy and loot, and now we're going to the purely narrative. And there are 2 games worth mentioning, I think. One has been delayed, which is called The Medium. I called it a spooky detective adventure with a twist, but that's just me. I think on Twitch it's dubbed differently. Let's have a look at that.